Do I have a wild one for you today? My mother, she's dating this unfaithful cheater. He's a man that's married, has a wife and a kid, but it gets deeper than that. Well, the guy I'm talking about is actually the father of my boyfriend. And when I meet him, finally, after dating for a long time, I decide to meet his parents. And I find out, oh, so you're the one that's actually dating my mother, but it looks like you're having an affair and no one knows now except for you and me. And you know what? I'm going to hold your secret, just for a little bit, till I decide to expose you.
I'm 25 and female, and I live with my mother, Cathy, in a bustling city. I work here, so my mom moved here recently from our town. My mom joined the store as a cashier, and we thought it would be better if she stayed with me so both of us could save on expenses. My mom never married my dad, and he left when I was a child. My mom has been in many relationships, and I've never interfered in her business until this very time, when I found out that the man she was with actually my boyfriend's father. This sounds twisted enough, but there's so much more to this story, which actually revealed to me how extremely selfish my mother is or has become. She finally decided to settle down, but chose to break someone's marriage for her own benefit. Let me start from the beginning, shall I? I met my boyfriend William at a cinema, where I worked part-time selling snacks and beverages. He's an avid movie watcher, and I would see him regularly. We then bumped into each other in the park where he was walking his dog. He told me he found me cute, which he could not really say to me at work. We went out for drinks and we hit it off almost immediately, and it's been around 6 months since our relationship began. My mother moved in with me 2 months ago, and I was really happy because I would finally have someone to help me with expenses and share the load of chores. There was much less a burden on me after she moved in. I've always seen her as a strong-headed woman who raised me single-handedly. She's never taken a man's crap and has always stood up for herself. Unlike me, she is not scared to ask for a fight, well, for the things that she wants. She picks fights if someone has done something wrong to her, but I've never really seen her in bad light. One day, she decided to divulge in me about her new guy. She said that she thinks that she's found the perfect one, and she got very emotional and was in tears. She cried that she did not want to die alone, and that she was finally looking to settle down. This was very unlikely for my mother, and it really put me in thoughts about what could cause such a drastic change in her behavior. Nevertheless, I was happy about her decision because I thought that she should find a permanent spouse for herself too. Since we were on the topic, I told her about William. She said she wanted to meet William and was mad at me for not telling her about my relationship earlier. Later that evening, I went and discussed this with William. We meet almost every day at the park, and he walks his dog, and I go for a jog. William thought it would be a great idea for us to meet each other's parents and take our relationship to the next stage. I didn't know him well, but I really liked him. I was delighted that things in our relationship were moving forward. I informed him that I was meeting my mother's boyfriend the next evening and that I would meet his parents the evening after. We agreed to go out for dinner. The next day, I met my mother's boyfriend Pete, 60 years old, male. He was a charming man, seemed extremely well-mannered and well soft-spoken. We had a nice lunch, and I was very happy for my mother after meeting him. I immediately liked Pete and felt I would be able to see him as a father figure. I had a lot of questions about him, but I figured it would be inappropriate to ask them in the first meeting itself. The day after, it was time to meet William's parents. I was super excited, and to be honest with you guys, I was nervous. The venue was a nice fine dining restaurant. I was sitting at the reserved table waiting for them. They arrived a few minutes later, and William was accompanied by his mother, Brenda. I got up to give her a hug. She seemed lovely and warm, and she informed me that William's father was going to arrive a little late. About 10 minutes later, Pete stopped in, and William introduced Pete as his father, and guys, I was in utter shock and confused. Pete was married and had a son. I asked the couple how they split, and Brenda started laughing and told William off for lying to me. William looked at me with wide eyes, as confused as I was, and Pete looked down, filled with guilt. Pete got up for a smoke, and I excused myself to go to the bathroom. I found Pete and confronted him. He revealed to me that his wife and son do not know about his affair. He told me that he's in an extremely unhappy marriage and that he's going to divorce Brenda. He begged me not to say a word to Brenda so that he could tell her himself and she'd be less heartbroken, and the rest of the evening was very awkward. I kept quiet about the whole affair. I went home and told my mom everything, thinking that she had no clue he was married, but my mother, oh well, she knew everything. I insisted we break up and condemned her for dating a married man, and she just said that she could not give Pete up for the world, and she finally found somebody that she could find solace in. She talked about how madly in love she was with Pete, and that she could not live without him. Growing up, I never imagined she would become the second woman in someone's life. I don't know what's wrong with her. The whole thing disgusts me, and everything about it was wrong. I like William a lot, but it turned out that my mom was dating his father. It was so gross. What was even more revolting was that my mother was dating a married man. Brenda seemed like a lovely woman, and it broke my heart that she was getting cheated on. Pete had started to visit our apartment often, and he would secretly come through the fire exit staircase that was the back of the building, so he could not be spotted by anyone. They didn't even care that I was there. They would go about their romance. His presence made me feel uncomfortable, though. He kept groping my mother with no regard for me. I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I had to stand it all out. I generally tell William everything, but I had to keep this one in. He could sense, though, something was wrong, but I kept dismissing him and telling him I was fine. Every time Pete came over, I would ask him when he was going to break the truth to Brenda. He kept giving me excuses and stalling, and what particularly irked me was that my mother's ways had completely changed after meeting Pete. She slowly stopped doing all the chores, and she did not even do her own dishes or laundry. When I confronted her, she said that she's been doing it for me ever since I was a kid, and it was selfish of me to not do it for her on a couple of occasions. She had stopped paying bills and rent too, and she's quite the extrovert and has always had a pretty happening life. She had friends back in our hometown and never really went out much after moving in with me. Eventually, she made a new group of friends who are real jerks. She wasn't really in good company, and they really showed it in a way that she started acting at home. So, she would often come home late. Since she was not contributing to anything, my burden has substantially increased, and I had to pay for and clean up after not just myself, but her too. This was the complete opposite of what I planned for myself. Living at home was starting to become unbearable. I refused to do her dirty laundry, and that caused a huge argument between us over something so petty. I was stressed out because of the issues I had at home, which hampered my work life too. I was constantly tired and mad. William and Brenda had started worrying about the sudden change in my mood, and they had grown a lot closer to me, as I would be regular at their house. Pete was not at home much because of work. Yeah, right. Seeing them unbeknownst to Pete's affair made me feel crappy. I liked spending time with them, but I was constantly engulfed by the guilt of hiding the truth from them. One day, I was particularly mad about something that happened at work, and I came home to find my mother and Pete in an intimate position on my couch undressed. This enraged me further. I slammed the door and left, and I was tired after a long day. I just wanted some rest, I didn't know where to go. I marched right up to William's house to tell them the truth. Something inside me prevented me from telling Brenda about the affair as she was cooking dinner. She sat me down and told me all about how she met her husband. I listened to her and saw the love in her eyes. I couldn't take it any longer. I just blurted everything out. Brenda was in shock and had a sort of panic attack. I gave her some water and called William to come home, and William did not know what was happening, and I just told him the truth too. We had managed to calm Brenda down, and she was upset and could not hold back her tears. Pete came home shortly after, and Brenda took him into the bedroom, and their argument could pretty much be heard for 3 blocks. I could hear the cry and scream that she had given him so many years of her life that he defied her. I comforted William and held his hand, and he was not taking it very well, to be honest. He just sort of fell silent. Pete came out and screamed at me in rage for telling Brenda the truth, and Brenda told me to go home at once. When I reached home, my mother hugged me in joy. She was in euphoria after I told Brenda the truth. She was celebrating. I can't believe that she didn't even feel sorry. Someone's marriage is in shambles and this woman's popping champagne bottles. She thanked me for everything I did, and now she can finally move in with Peter after they divorced, and I realized that my mom was living with the lie she created in her head to make her happy. The truth was far from it. She was extremely delusional, and she thought Pete was a very good man, but he was just a lying, cheating jerk. I met William the next day, and he revealed that Brenda and Pete are getting a divorce. What shocked me even further was that William thought this cheating and dating my mother were completely normal. He said that people change, and so do their interests. Well, I don't know, I just saw that as a giant red flag. But it wasn't that important to me at the time. I asked how Brenda was doing, and William said that she was still shocked and in despair. I felt bad about the whole thing. A cheater is a cheater, but I felt worse knowing my mom was a part of this. A couple days later, I went to visit Brenda. I felt sorry and apologized for my mom being the one with whom her husband is having an affair with. It wasn't my fault, but I did not know what to do and make her feel better. At that very moment, I decided that I was going to support this lovely woman no matter what. She's given her whole life to this man, loved him with complete faith, and got betrayal in return. They went ahead with the divorce proceedings. Brenda hired a lawyer, Jack, which Pete had been made to pay for by the judge, and the lawyer had demanded their house and maintenance on behalf of Brenda since she was financially dependent on Pete. The divorce was filed on the grounds of adultery, but Pete denied the allegations and said that nothing like that ever occurred. He claimed that Brenda was just suspicious and extremely paranoid. Brenda had previously suspected Pete of having an affair, which he actually did, but she could not find any bit of proof, so she moved on. But in the process, everyone they knew thought she was extremely paranoid. You see, Pete had quite this reputation for being charming and loyal. Everyone they knew could not believe he could do such a thing. Everyone testified against Brenda for her suspecting ways. My mother, she falsely said that she had nothing to do with Pete and was just a cashier in Pete's store. They made up this fake story about Brenda walking in on them having a normal conversation and having been suspecting them since then. Well, we were shocked to see the turn of events, but still wanted to fight. Pete claimed that I and Brenda were conniving against Pete to usurp his house and his money. My mom supported him, saying she secretly overheard us talking on the phone about framing Pete. Pete and my mother created this false narrative about us, and they claimed that I and Brenda met through William, and I took advantage of her suspicious behavior to get my hands on his money through Brenda. All these lies were crap, but the court actually believed them. My mother presented a fake recording of me and Brenda talking on the phone about a plan. The recording was manipulated to sound like we were conniving against someone, but it was actually a recording of us planning William's birthday party. We knew we had to gather some evidence if we were going to win. We tried looking for proof everywhere, but found nothing. Pete had always come into my apartment through the fire exit, and he never left any of his stuff. I went to the cafe where we had lunch to get footage, but they had deleted records and did not recall us coming. We could not prove that Mom and Pete were having an affair. Pete was successful in proving Brenda was having these anger issues and just being extremely suspicious. Things really turned when William stabbed us in the back and falsely testified against Brenda. William had lied and said that Brenda had been toxic and abusive to Pete ever since he was a child, and He also supported their allegations of conniving against Pete for money. He said that they made him a part of their plan too, but he chose to support the truth. Brenda screamed and cried in court that they were lying, and the screaming and shouting did more harm than good for her. Everyone thought that she was just going crazy, and Pete had such a good reputation. No one would believe such a charming man would cheat. Pete, well, he won the case. I asked William why he would do such a thing, and William said he thought it was the right thing to do. He said that he was scared and did not want to get kicked out of his house. You know, he does depend on Pete financially, and he needs his help clearing student loans. I felt like slapping him across the face for everything he said. How could a guy be such a jerk? I broke up with him at that instant and said that he was such a coward, and I did not want to date the little daddy's boy. William had betrayed his own mother, Brenda, and it was worse than Pete betraying her. Her own son lied about her just for a bit of money. It was more heartbreaking than ever. I could see her falling into depression after everything that happened, and Brenda did not have money to pay for her lawyer by herself, so she had no choice but to give up. Brenda had to move out of the house, and she spent half her life in after the divorce. I kicked my own mom out and took Brenda in. Obviously, my mom went to Pete for help. Pete got her a house nearby, but did not ask her to move in just yet, so asked to prevent a bit of suspicion. After all, they lied in court. They could not give people the opportunity to believe Brenda, and they just needed to keep up with their lies. Brenda did not have anywhere to go. She had quit her career for her marriage too, and she took up a job at a bakery. We were slowly trying to move on from our respective heartbreaks, and I even condemned my mother for being so selfish and lying inside of court. William was not any better either. He chose financial security over his own mother. William is such an a-hole, and I could tell he gets it from his father, you know. Brenda is lovely to live with. Both of our loved ones are selfish a-holes, and she is not my mom and I am not her child. We were just roommates, I guess. I don't know what the future brings, but I leave. She'll be left alone if I do. The thought is kind of disturbing. Meanwhile, my mom is happy living this luxurious stolen life with her new boyfriend, and I hope karma strikes them soon. I really want to help out Brenda, but I don't know how to. She's really good at baking, and she hopes to start her bakery pretty soon after we've saved up enough. She has experience handling stores since she's handled Pete's shop in the past, and I would really appreciate some feedback on what I can do to make her life better. I really have guilt inside me that my mom broke her home. I also feel sorry for her as a woman. Pete's been a bad husband to her, but William has been an even worse son. She's lost everyone she loved, and the happiness I saw the first time I met her has faded away. Of course, I'm dealing with my share of pain too. My mom was selfish, and I could not keep ties with her after what she did. She did her best to raise me, but I can't call that jerk my mom anymore. I mean, the breakup, it was hard on me too, you know. William turned out to be a completely different person than I thought he was, and I really saw a future with him. Life's just dull now. It's hard, but I hope that the both of us move on soon. Update number 1. Hey guys, thanks for the overwhelming response that you gave me. I will be honest, your immense love and support for Brenda has made us feel so much better. It reminds us that there are people out there with us. A lot of you have been asking how are we and what happened to Pete, my mom, and William. Well, they're doing fine, which annoyed us a lot because we were still upset about everything that happened. We were too impatient to wait for karma to hit us, so we decided we needed to do something ourselves. Pete did not want to arouse suspicion or damage his reputation, so he rented an apartment for my mother, which was a haven for their illicit relationship. It was close enough to his house, but far enough for anyone to not notice their affair. They cleverly avoided meeting us, and my mother continued to work at his shop. She continued to live the lush life she always wanted, and not once did she try to keep in touch or even apologize to me for framing me in court. I was just hurt by her selfishness. My own mother plotted against me for her selfish gains. Pete eventually stopped visiting my mom's apartment and even paying rent. My mother refused to pay the rent, so instead she went over to Pete's house and moved herself in. Pete could not stop her, and now everyone knew that Pete and my mother were in fact having an affair and that they lied in court. I needed to take revenge, so I put a lot of money into hiring a private investigator named Gemma. I wanted her to collect all the evidence against Pete, and after reading all your comments and suggestions, we considered that maybe our lawyer was in favor of Pete. Gemma revealed he's been cheating on my mother too. Pete and his mistress would meet regularly at a hotel on the outskirts of the city. Now that I had dirt against him, I called my mother anonymously and told her to come quick. Her boyfriend was cheating. Well, I did it in advance. She came running to the room that they were in and caught him cheating, and after she caught him, a fuel-fury drama ensued. There was arguments and fights for many days, and Pete said he didn't need my mom and told her to leave. My mom had to leave him, but she had nowhere to go. She worked at his store, so she lost her job too, and my mom arrived right here at my doorstep, begging me to take her in, and she said that it was selfish of me to leave my own mom out on the streets, and I told her that she was the one who's been selfish. I said, I told you so. Pete's a cheater, and she should not have dated him knowing it. She brought this on herself. I told her that the apartment is too small for the three of them, and that she needs to leave. Me and Brenda, on the other hand, have had enough of all these temporary jobs and have decided to open up our own bakery. Brenda is an amazing baker, and we already have huge support, and we can use that for our bakery. It's a plan on paper, but funds are obviously an issue. We need all the help that we can get, and we've decided to take out a loan for a small bakery. So, let's see how it goes. Again, thank you for the love and support in the comment section. Brenda loves reading them, and it really boosts her self-esteem. Update number 2. Hey guys. So, I've received so many comments on the divorce saying that Brenda should get justice and we should go to court again now that we have evidence. We thought that we could really use the money for the bakery, and we were feeling even more confident. We really wanted to teach Pete a lesson. My mom had nowhere to go, so she went to one of a friend's place or something. She had sold her house in our hometown, so she could not go back there either. She's run out of places to go and had to resort to the park benches. She fell extremely sick, so I had to take her in, and I just waited until she got better and instructed her to stay in my old shabby apartment. I also demanded she work and pay the rent too. I put forth the condition that she helps us with the court case if she wants to stay in my apartment, and she had to agree. Pete had sneakily kicked William out of his life too, and he said that he was old enough to take care of himself. Now that Pete kicked him out, William came and begged Brenda for forgiveness. He had a job that he could not afford to stay on his own, and he spent way too much. I thought he could use William to our advantage, so I asked Brenda to pretend to forgive him. Brenda did what I asked, and we took William in with us. We got ourselves a better lawyer, M, unlike the last lawyer who cost us our case, and she collected all the evidence that we missed the first time. We used the proof that Gemma collected too, and everyone knew the truth after my mom moved in with Pete anyways. We instructed my mom and William to say exactly what the lawyer told them. So my mom admitted that she lied in court, and William told the court that he was pressurized by Pete to lie in court so that they'd let him off the hook. My mom and Pete fought outside of court too, and Pete blamed her for everything. He said that no one would have known if it weren't for her. My mom furiously punched Pete in the face, and the drama was worth watching. Brenda wanted him to intervene, but I stopped her because it was so darn hilarious. My mom was left out of the hook because she lied and said that she was pressurized by Pete to falsely testify in court. Pete had to pay a huge fine for perjury, and we had won the case fair and square, and Pete went back because he had to pay both the fines and give Brenda maintenance. He had to give Brenda compensation too, and Brenda also got the house. Pete had to move into a very small apartment, and he had to start from zero and also had the burden of alimony. Brenda condemned herself for not identifying the snakes that she lived with for so many years. Nothing could fill the void made by the trust William and Pete had broken. So, we kicked William out once we moved into their house and out of our rented apartment. Brenda felt guilty, but I told her it was for the best. It was important that William learned his lesson and became financially independent, and he was too old to be living with his parents, and he should be thinking about building a life of his own, you know. I kicked my mom out of my apartment, too. My use for her is over, and I wanted to sell my old place. William and Pete were cut off by their friends and family, too, and Pete struggling with his life because of his damaged reputation and the fact that Brenda had spoon-fed him all his life. He had to live alone outside to the comforts of his home, and he's known to be notorious, so he can't even land a mistress anymore. He's also facing, issues getting staff for his shop. He's finally getting what he deserves, and I'm happy about it. Brenda had garnered huge support around town. She had enough money to open up our bakery. We opened it last week, and the response of it was amazing. Everyone we knew came out to try our bakery, and we opened the bakery debt-free thanks to the money we received from old Pete. We're finally busy with our lives, and this would not have been possible without the support we got from everyone. So, thank you so much. Well, Brenda thinks that we've wronged William and my mom, and it's really making her feel guilty, and she thinks about it a lot. I've started thinking about it too, to be honest with you guys. We sometimes argue over it, and I really want to know what all of you think. We're wrong for using my mom and William to win the case and then kicking them out? Let me know in the comment section.
I'm just happy Brenda, who was basically the biggest victim of this story, had OP to fall back on because they were each other's backbones. And we found out at the end of the story, Brenda and OP opened up a bakery, and they cut all the people out of their life who were nothing more but toxic. I do want to hear from you guys though. What would you have done in this position? Say you were OP, and you find out that your boyfriend's father's a cheater, and he's the one dating your mom. Ew. Let me know, do you hold on to the secret for a little bit, just like OP did, or do you just stand up and expose them right then and there? Guys, drop your comments directly below in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate and animate stories every single day. We're about to hit 100,000 subscribers. If you guys want to see daily videos, your best bet is just to subscribe to the channel, because if you do, you'll get notified whenever I upload. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.